Welcome to another episode of our personal empowerment audio program, Finding Yourself in Paradise. Hi, I'm Michael Benner.
And I'm Steve Snyder, and our program today is entitled Deep Understanding. I'm reminded of a wonderful Bob Seger lyric. He said, "They call it understanding, a willingness to grow. I'm finally understanding. There's so much I don't know." And of course, that requires deep understanding.
Yeah, and a willingness to know more and the humility to admit that you don't really know as much as you might, want other people to believe you really do. So it does start with intention, but what is that saying about people who know they're right have shut down on understanding? And I think when we talk about deep understanding in this episode today, we're talking about those who have really set aside that need to be right, okay, or to be a know-it-all. I spent a lot of years in my teens and 20s thinking that's the way a successful person acted, was you've got all the answers and you know everything and you don't need to understand more. You don't even need to sympathize or empathize because that would be a weakness. Lo and behold, I found out just the opposite was true, that the real strength comes from saying, well, I know a little about that, but I'd like to know more. I'd like to really understand. What else can I learn? And then commit to that.
Yeah, that I'd like to know more concept. I mean, you need to start with that. Whatever it is you want to have a deep understanding of, it has to start with, I'd like to know more about that. I realize I don't know everything there is to know. I realize I have maybe a surface understanding of a lot of things, and I can't really have a deep understanding of everything, but it is real important that I develop a deep understanding of some things, and those things that are most important to me. For example, we take a look at, have a deep understanding of your health. The first thing that popped into my mind, I mean, most people have a kind of an idea that they're in this kind of shape or that kind of shape, but this is something you could learn a great deal more about. This is a subject that is incredibly important to understand, and you could explore with the help of a physician or a body worker or all kinds of different people. You can explore a deeper understanding of your physical being.
You bet. And I think to even understand how your health impacts other people is part of deep understanding too, or how you're understanding intellectually or you're understanding emotionally, even of those really personal emotional feelings that are, essentially about you. To understand them deeply, I think, is to recognize how they may impact other people. It's a lot to me like deep ecology, this concept we're promoting today of deep understanding. Deep ecology is eliminating the separation between a human's point of view and the environment or the ecosystem. In other words, instead of seeing it as a mechanism out there that serves us, and we can exploit it, we can ignore it if we want, we can use it for our own benefit. Deep ecology, which started in the mid-'70s really academically, requires a recognition of the fact that the ecosystem is but one whole, complete system, and nothing can be separated out. In a sense, everything is as important as everything else. The snail has a role to play. The radish has a role to play. Microbes have roles to play. And human beings, just because we're at the top of the food chain, doesn't mean we're superior in that sense. We're better in a lot of other ways, than animals and plants. But in terms of the larger ecosystem, deep ecology is understanding your role in the bigger picture. So it's like an elevated perspective that gives you a deeper understanding, if that's not too contradictory.
I mean, take a look at the ecology, for example, and the plight of the honeybee. I mean, there's billions of honeybees that are dying and are missing. And, you take all the human beings off the planet Earth, and the Earth would pretty much be the same as it is now. But if you take the honeybees off the Earth, that's the end. I mean, that's the end of almost all crops. That's the end of all the cattle that eat those crops. I mean, that's the end. So take a look. We put ourselves at the top of the food chain, but we're not the most essential ingredient in this whole ecology. And to me, having a deeper understanding that honeybees are more important to the survival of the planet than I am, that's a deeper understanding. There's a humbleness for me that comes in that. And I think anytime you explore something deeper. Let go of the I know it all feeling. Open up to the idea of I don't understand everything and I want to understand more. I can't understand more about everything, but I certainly can go deeper and understand more about the things that matter to me.
You know, one of my favorite paradoxes comes from as a kid laying on a blanket in the backyard at night, especially on one of those warm summer nights. I grew up in Michigan, so we didn't lay in the backyard in the wintertime. I'll assure you of that. But, you know, a really nice, warm, balmy night and looking at all the stars. Because I grew up in a small town. You could see the whole Milky Way. It was just rich and wonderful. And you know how people will describe this experience often as, isn't it funny how insignificant you feel when you do that? Well, to me, the paradox is, yeah, I can understand feeling insignificant in that way, but at the same time, if I'm capable of understanding that significance is a relative concept, that makes me a pretty significant individual. And to play with that paradox requires me to accept that I'm both separated and yet unified with this universe. It is just one verse, right? As far as we know, it's a universe. I don't think it's a dual verse.
Might be part of a multiverse. We don't know.
There are some theories that suggest there could be parallel universes and multiple universes, like cells in a beehive, for example. We don't really know. But my point is, look at the word, the derivation of the word. Universe means one, right? It's a little complicated because the word one could mean a separate one, like, well, do you mean this one or that one? But another meaning of the same word is the whole one.
We are all one.
Exactly, to the exclusion of nothing. And that would be, to me, the deeper understanding, to see the bigger picture and never separate yourself. We talk sometimes about mindful detachment, and that's really how to get to this deeper understanding through detachment. But the problem is dissociation. That's very different. Not seeing your stake in the ecology or seeing your investment in whether your parents get along or your kids like each other or some situation at work. To be able to read the news, for example, and know it's not just something happening to other people, but humanity and all life is going through this at the same time, and to include yourself. I think it even takes some courage and I know some dedication and commitment. As you've already said, will or intention is really where we have to begin with this.
Yeah, indeed. So if we have a deeper understanding, could be having more facts, knowing more information. That's a deeper level of understanding. But what we're really talking about more than that is understanding how those facts affect me and how those facts affect the people in my life and how those facts change my world. That's a deeper understanding. Not just knowing stuff, but playing with that stuff and thinking about how does that stuff affect me? What does that stuff mean? Where do I go with that? How can knowing that stuff be of greater value to me? Deeper understanding is taking any subject, anything you want, and researching it, looking into it, finding out more about it, and then meditating on the facts and the ramifications. It's a combination of intake and processing. I mean, there's two different things. You can do a lot of reading, you can do a lot of research, you can talk to a lot of experts, you can find out lots and lots more information about these things you want a deeper understanding on. But then the real work takes place when you stop with all that stuff. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and go inside and ask yourself simple questions like, what does this all mean? Or what am I going to do with this? Or how is this going to affect me? Or how can I use this in a wonderful way? Just ask real open-ended questions and then let that incredible subconscious mind, that amazing imagination, that ability the subconscious has to step back and see the big picture and put it all together, that conceptual understanding, let it all come together and see what happens. And that's a deeper understanding. You just sort of let it all come together and just see what happens.
Like the Beatles tune, come together. The Greeks have a great word. It's an old Greek, ancient Greek word, eureka, which means I have found it, literally. But it's more than that. It carries this heavy realization, this explosion sometimes of light and awareness inside your head or even in your body. You can feel it. Sometimes it comes in gradually as like the dawning of a new idea or a deeper understanding. Sometimes, like Ford has a better idea, the archetype of the light bulb turning on, it's like, boing, boing, oh, I just got a great idea. Or, you know what I just realized? And then sometimes we're just thunderstruck and it seems the top of our head is ripped off by this explosion of awareness. Well, what if we could do that on demand? What if we could move to a state of deep relaxation, feeling really safe and relaxed, where we can promote, by calming the heart and quieting the mind, the likelihood that you're going to have an experience of deep understanding, an experience of illumination, that aha, that the Greeks used to call eureka. Steve and I know for a fact, have practiced for many years, as young men learned and as adults have taught all of our lives, that we can access these states on demand.
Yeah, that's one of the things earliest in my life I wanted a deeper understanding about, was how do we do this? Like, how do you get into this state of mind where you can go to places that people you really respect used to go, the great thinkers, the great philosophers, they weren't living in a rat race kind of life. They took time out, all the great philosophers took time out to sit and think deeply. And it is those deep thoughts, it's those deep feelings, it's those deep experiences of what your thoughts and feelings are doing with each other that causes the deeper understanding. Now, we're saying not that you have to hope for a good idea, not that you have to hope that maybe there'll be some deep understanding if you explore. Just exploring creates it. Just opening your mind to the idea of, I want to know more about this. I want to understand more about how I fit in with this and how this affects the whole world. Just asking that question creates a deeper understanding of your relationship with whatever this thing is. So it starts with the intention. It starts with the will. Conscious mind says, yes, I'm interested in knowing more about how to be a better husband. I'm really interested in how I can be a better husband. I have an understanding. I've read lots of books. I know a lot of stuff about how to be a good husband or even a great husband, but I want a deeper understanding of how I can be an even better husband. So I close my eyes and I go into my alpha state. I go to my peaceful place, my paradise inside, and I ask myself, how can I have a deeper understanding of how I can be a better husband? And what comes up for me is a clearer understanding of the way my wife is and how it's different from me. And the more I explore wanting to be a better husband, the more I realize it has to do with like giving up the me-ness and opening up to the us-ness. And the us-ness is a much richer, more wonderful place to be. I'm not there all the time. When I'm, doing my work, I'm in the me-ness. But when I'm with my wife, or lots of other times, for example, when we had a whole bunch of money to invest, and I was dreaming of the idea of taking this and making lots of money with it and becoming world-class philanthropist, and she's thinking, well, I don't feel real safe, I want to make sure that this is safe. That, like, I understood, her point was that we should go safe investments. My point was this: we should take some risks. I understood the facts, but the deeper understanding came in where I looked at what it would mean, and for me it would mean the thrill of being a great philanthropist, perhaps, but for her it would be the terror of constantly being afraid that it was all going to go away. And, like, when I put myself in her place, like, how big a thing is that compared to this thrill thing? It was like there was no comparison. It was like so obvious to me that this thrill idea of being a great philanthropist, nice, I still am a good philanthropist, but making my wife spend the rest of her life feeling unsafe, that would be so stupid. A deeper understanding is more than the facts. It's the ecology of how it all works together. It's the conceptual understanding, and it's the richer emotional empathy that comes in exploring the depths of the issue.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. And we could even generalize, I think, based on that very story and say that you have a simple, shallow, or basic understanding when you are separated from that which you understand. A deeper understanding is indicated by a feeling that you are inextricably involved. If it's not unified, like the ecosystem, one thing, or the universe is one thing, then at least it's harmonious and working in the direction of union. And I like the word community, to do with unity. I think it's a good goal. I see harmony as the path to get from diversity or feeling separate and having that shallow understanding to the unity of deep understanding. We go through harmony. And that is the paradise process. That's where we find the self, through deep understanding. And let's look at some of the words that have been used. For example, to ponder. I love that verb, ponder. Alice Bailey wrote a compilation of excerpts from many of her books called Ponder on This, right? It's like another generation's version of check this out, dude. What do you, wait, get into this stuff. Or a word I really like is reflection, as if looking into a mirror or a still pool of water. And to reflect, think of the meanings of that, is to reflect on your thoughts, to reflect on your feelings, on your behavior and your health and your relationships and career. And again, most of us are so stressed and overstimulated, and many of us hooked like junkies on the adrenaline of multitasking. We call our fear excitement, and we love it, right? As long as we're busy, we'll tolerate a lot of anxiety and stress, and we just never take the time to go deeper with our understanding of anything. It's just skating across the surface, and then people once in a while sit back, scratch their heads, and say, how did we get in this mess? Like politically, or in terms of religion. If all religions are teaching love, why is there so much hate? What did we do wrong? Hey, we have enough food on this planet right now to feed everybody and then some, but a third of us are hungry. Why? Well, because of the separateness, the you or me-ness of regular understanding. We've got to go deeper to see how we're involved in this one thing.
Yeah, and it is all like this one big thing that includes these parameters of love and fear. It's basically all love and fear. And, of course, fear is fear of the unknown, and that's ignorance. So fear's partner is ignorance. So love's partner, obviously, would be understanding. Love and understanding are the same thing, just as fear and ignorance are essentially the same thing. So what we're talking about is exploring love, understanding love. The more you know, the less afraid you are. And that's the secret to exploring understanding, is exploring what blocks you from having it anyway, which is the ignorance and the fear. The ignorance is, I don't want to know, or I already know enough, or I don't even know that I don't know. And then there's the fear, which is, boy, if I did know, then maybe I'd be worse off than I am, or maybe I'd be disappointed, or maybe it'd be a letdown. All these things that block us from going there. So when you close your eyes and you take a deep breath and you start to feel safe, sometimes those fears come up, but they come up in a way where you're already feeling safe, so you can handle them, you can release them. And it's so easy to release these fears when you're already feeling safe. It's just a matter of taking a deep breath and release. The way you hold on to something is to hold on to it, and the way you release something is to release it. You let go of your breath, you let go of the muscle tension, you just let go, and it's the power of that negative thought goes away. So experiencing the fear, whatever's blocking you from the deeper understanding. I'm afraid to know more about my health because maybe I'll get some bad news. Well, explore that fear and realize it can't hurt me. I mean, there's no power in that fear. It's just an imaginary thing. So make it go away, and then go deeper and understand more about your health, or more about your relationship, or more about your career, or more about your finances, or more about whatever matters the most to you. The way you do it is you have the intention of, that's what I want to explore. You close your eyes, you take a deep breath, you go to paradise, and you ask your mind to explore it. You don't have to direct it. You don't have to, be the choreographer of it and show it every step it needs to take. You just, unleash it. Just let it go. Say, here's the basic idea of what I want you to go explore now, and go explore it. Just open up and see what happens.
The cyclic nature of these two cycles is especially fascinating to me. In other words, the way ignorance and fear feed each other. Like in the chicken and the egg of that, I'm not sure where you begin, because if you're ignorant or confused or just don't know something, that's scary. But we know that feeling scared or the F word, fear, or nervous or worried or apprehensive, there's lots of words we have for fear, confounds us even further. So now I'm even more confused, even more ignorant, which makes me more afraid and more confused and more afraid and more ignorant, and around it goes like a vicious cycle. Well, darn it, love and understanding does exactly the same thing, except it is a spiral that lifts us up rather than pulls us down. Does not love as paradise, alpha, meditative states of safety and peace promote understanding, which, of course, after you get a realization, whether you never understood it or thought you did and you had a deeper understanding, there's a relaxation, a sense of relief and release that sets in, and so you become even more peaceful and more loving and are likely to realize even more, understand it even more deeply, and around it goes. So one pulls us down, fear and ignorance, the way it cycles around. Love and understanding, similar, but again, like a reflection. This is a positive upward spiral. I guess the only question is how to get from one to the other. And I think the secret is relaxation and responsibility. Relaxation, meaning, again, to use these alpha brainwave levels to go to paradise to find yourself. Meditation, contemplation, reflection, introspection.
Prayer, if you want.
Yeah, there's lots of words for it if you do it right and really feel a letting go of muscular tension and monitor your breathing and teach the brain that you're really safe enough.
That's the key.
For your attention to focus. And it's oddly the focused attention. It's like going from floodlight to spotlight to laser beam that allows us to receive more information. I mean, a laser beam, you can, a floodlight, you can shine a light on something. Laser beam, you can cut right through steel.
Or shine a light on the moon.
With light, right? Because why? It's focused. Well, imagine then the power of the mind when it's focused through this intention, through this dedication, this commitment to have a deeper understanding of things, because that's who you are, part of the one life.
So if you're out there in the world, if your eyes are open and you're paying attention to all the things that are going on in your world, and you're worried about things that are going on in the future, and you're feeling regret and remorse of things that went on in the past, there's absolutely no room for deep understanding. Your mind is in a state, almost a fight or flight mode. It's in a confused, anxious, nervous state, and it doesn't have room to explore anything deeper. It believes on some level its survival is at stake. Remember, we are descended from the most paranoid. I mean, those human beings that were cavalier about whether there's any danger out there didn't live very long. We're descended from the people who thought there's probably danger around. Well, even though there's very little danger anymore, we still have the brain that wants to go into that danger mode. To go to a place of deeper understanding has to involve feeling safe first, because your brain says survival trumps self-improvement. Survival trumps everything. You've got to convince yourself that you are safe to be able to go deeper into something. And to convince yourself you're safe, one of the most important things you need to do is close your eyes, because if your eyes are open, you've got all this input coming in and your mind's thinking danger can come. If you close your eyes, your brain's going, well, I'm obviously feeling like no danger is going to come at me from out there, because my eyes are closed. And then the other thing you have to do that your brain just absolutely requires is to let it know that it's safe by giving it a lot of oxygen. That's how it knows it's safe. Deep breaths tell the brain it's safe. Shallow breaths tell the brain it's in danger. Holding the breath tells the brain it's in abject fear. But deep breaths tell the brain, okay, we're safe. So close the eyes, take the deep breath, and then, we always suggest find yourself in paradise. Create an imaginary world inside your mind where you would feel safe if you really were there. The subconscious doesn't know real from imaginary. It sort of thinks it's there, just like in a movie. It thinks it's really, or a dream, it thinks it's really happening. So you find yourself in this really safe place, and your breathing is deep, and your eyes are closed, and your tension is gone, and your anxiety's abated, and your confusion has disappeared, and that's when you can have a deeper understanding. From there, it's like, where do I shine the laser beam? Now I have this focused passion. Now you got to decide on what area of my life, on what subject, on what interest am I going to shine that light of deep understanding.
Part of all of this, like critical thinking itself, is understanding also the limits of logic. Many of us have come out of school with an idea that logic is not only the supreme way to think, but really the only way to think. And so people will tell us, or maybe you find yourself speaking to others in the same way, you've got to be logical, get real, be reasonable, get your feet on the ground and think rationally, right? What all that is a reference to is very simple deductive logic. It's general to specific. Think of an upside-down triangle with the base at the top and the point at the bottom. You start with all of this general understanding and deduce or subtract. If it were algebra, you'd call it factoring. You're pulling bits out, right? Ordering from a menu. You're really eliminating what you don't want to arrive at a couple of choices about what you do want. That's what deductive logic is. That's what it does. It's like balancing a checkbook. It can only go from big concepts to details. It's taking things apart. Don't understand a clock, you get out the screwdriver and the wrench and you take the clock apart into little pieces. Deep understanding is a phenomena of realizing the bigger picture. It is, in a sense, a complementary, almost inductive process of going from specific to general. Like, I have all these observable facts and details, some of which seem oddly related to each other, but I can't exactly put my finger on the unified field theory, to borrow from Einstein and physicists. The one theory that explains all other theories. And how do we do this? What is this process of taking a step back and promoting the kind of intelligence that it takes to see the big picture? What a German scientist would call the Gestalt, right? There's a whole field of psychology Fritz Perls invented called Gestalt psychology, about seeing the bigger picture. Again, not just the separated you. Fritz Perls used to put an empty chair in front of you and have you talk to people as if they were sitting in the chair, and amazing things were accomplished, although, in a sense, the client was still alone. But Perls would show him the bigger picture. Imagine you're sitting here with your father who died 5 years ago, and you've still got these issues going on. Tell Dad. I know the chair's empty. Tell Dad. And suddenly, the light bulb comes on, deep understanding. And one of the things we know in psychology about processing hurt is that the antidote is understanding. So when you understand why you're hurt, why you're sad, why you're depressed, why you feel alienated or lonely or contemptuous or whatever, when you get the why, when you see this bigger picture, it falls away. It vaporizes. It's like a symptom that's not needed anymore. It's like the fire department arrived. Would somebody turn off the fire alarm? We don't need that anymore. And that's how we heal emotional hurt, through understanding.
And the emotional hurt that we all have, that we all hold on to, affects us every day of our lives. And the more we can understand what still hurts from our childhood, from our growing up time, the more we can understand about that, and the more we can release the power it has over us, the freer we can be in the world. I think that's a real important thing to understand. Have a deeper understanding of what still hurts from the life experiences you've had. That's a hard place to go. It's a scary place to go, but it's a place that will have tremendous impact on your life. If you can explore those things that your parents said that hurt you, or the peer pressure things that made you do things that you're ashamed of, or feel remorse or regret for, exploring those hard things and having a deeper understanding about those things gives you a much deeper understanding of your very being. And you can't do that when you're walking around doing your job. You can't do that when you're watching TV. You can't do that most of the time. You have to carve out time for this. And that time is time where you sit down for anywhere from a few minutes to 20 minutes. You don't really want to go much longer than 20 minutes because you probably fall asleep, and that's not the point here. Sort of like 10 or 15 minutes is a really wonderful amount of time for most people to just sit and contemplate and introspect and reflect on those things that matter the most to you. I think the two places I like to go in these moments that really change my life deeply is into the past and into the future. I mean, I can be in the now. It's a really good place to be. But in terms of healing, I'm fine now. It's the stuff from the past that I have to explore to heal, and the worry stuff I have in the future that I want to heal before I manifest. So it's just a great place to do a deep understanding of me and my impact on the world. I'm coming up on 60 years old. I'm starting to think about my legacy. What am I going to leave behind? A deeper understanding of like why I was here and what it all meant. That's a great place to go. You can't go there when your mind is busy, though. You have to go there when your mind quiets down and you have the intention of exploring these things to gain this deep understanding.
Now, I'm not sure, don't hold me to this, but I think it's the philosopher Leibniz that gets credit for handing every journalist since the tools they use for deep understanding, which is the 7 W's. It's who, what, where, when, how, the W's on the end in that one, and why. And I can tell you, as a journalist for many, many years, it's the why that usually comes last, if at all. It's the why that's often overlooked. So what we'll tend to do when we understand something is have a good enough surface understanding that usually involves the basics, the who, the what, maybe the where or the when, but the how and the why starts getting a little esoteric because it brings us into this bigger, more complete picture that a lot of people, they see it as work. They don't want to understand it. It's too complicated. Why even bother? There's that question, why why even bother? Use more hows and especially more whys in your life if you want to promote this deeper, more inclusive, comprehensive level of understanding. When you find yourself in paradise, you're going to be using deep understanding. And you're going to want to ask yourself, why? Why do I think the thoughts I think? Why do I feel the way I feel, emotionally and physically? Why do I do the things I do? You know, a lot of what I do, I don't even think about until after I've already done it. So why did I do that? Oops. But even then, it's never too late to ask why and to arrive at a deeper understanding. I think that's a nice little tool. The shortest question you'll probably ever ask just might be the most powerful. Ask it of another, it's also powerful, but ask it of yourself, it's primary and essential. Why do you think and feel and act the way you do? Who are you? And why do you believe you are that person? Who loves you? And why do they love you? And more to the point, why do you think they love you? Asking why to take yourself deeper and deeper and deeper. And again, it's a little paradoxical. To go deeper is to have an elevated perspective or to find that higher point of view that the true self, the higher self, the authentic self provides. It's a deeper understanding. I know I'm mixing the metaphor a little bit, but hopefully the feeling comes through.
Well, you know, if you look at it from a basic point of view, the fear that comes up when we want to go deeper is that it's already complicated and it's going to be even more complicated if I go any deeper. But actually, the opposite is the truth. If you go deeper, it gets simpler. That's the whole point. Yes. The deeper you go, the simpler it gets. Einstein said everything should be as simple as possible and no simpler. And he also said if you can't explain it simply, then you don't really understand it well enough. So the deeper you go into something, the more you get those ahas. The ahas is that big picture thing. And all of a sudden, all these details become a coherent understanding. So it seems paradoxical. It seems like if I learn more, it'll be more complicated. But the truth is, if I learn enough more, it all comes together and gets really quite simple.
Deep understanding really is simple. I remember reading that when Einstein published his theory of relativity as E equals mc squared, saying that mass and energy is all there is in the universe, and they're convertible, that energy is equal to mass times the speed of light squared, right? And it is said that when this happened, scientists, as they began to read the study and look at that formula, many of them began to cry. Many of them began to weep because they could see deeply into the center of a universe that had design. This was not the product of chaos, this beauty. And those who know geometry, for example, as well as higher math, calculus, and advanced algebra and such, will tell you the same thing, that the formulas that govern the universe, physics and chemistry, well, let me take that back. Chemistry formulas can be really complex, but math and science, the elegance and the simplicity, like the radius of an ellipse, as in a planet rotating around the sun, sweeps out equal space in equal time. So although the planet is going faster as it comes closer to the sun and slower as it goes out in the long part of the ellipse, the space that it sweeps out is exactly equal no matter the speed of the planet. That's like fascinating. That's really beautiful. It speaks of deep integrity, and that's deep understanding. And why settle for less in any area of your life, right? It's not just a matter of the KISS principle, keeping it simple. It's a matter of asking why until it reduces down to its simplest element. And at the center of all of this, maybe you're going to anticipate Steve and I making this point anyway. You know, at the center of all of this is a deep understanding of self. That's what it's ultimately about. How can you be of service to other people if you don't know what you have to give? What's the likelihood of having a fulfilling love relationship if you don't know what's lovable about you and what you have to offer and the best way to present it? You've got to know yourself deeply in order to have more to give to other people.
And the way you find yourself is in paradise. So let's do that right now. Once again, an audio journey. We include these in each and every one of these programs. We think this is actually one of the most important parts of the whole training, because when we had a radio show, we couldn't do this part. You know, we couldn't put people into this focused passion alpha brainwave state. We couldn't actually guide them into a paradise brainwave state. But we can do that here, and it always starts as you close your eyes. It starts with this one conscious deep breath, paying attention to the breath as it comes in and goes out, and then allowing your imagination to create, with all the sensations, your paradise place.
Create and sense a feeling of letting go in the muscles in your body. You may have to consciously move your awareness from your head down into your body and feel the letting go. Actually feel muscles unwinding and relaxing. And check those areas that you know normally gather stress and tension. It's different for different people, but you know where your tight muscles usually are. Take another breath now, pulling in strength and power, and hold just for a moment as you peak, and then as you exhale just as slowly, breathe into those areas and feel the stress and the muscular tension, like a suit of armor just falling away.
And as you feel lighter and lighter and freer, you'll find a great weight is lifted from off of your mind. And that weight is fear. And it disappears here as it becomes quite clear that being safe is here. Here you are safe, safe inside you, Safe in a place where there's amazing things you can do. Find more elegant solutions, a deeper understanding you'll find by removing the fear and opening up your mind. So start with the intention. I want to understand this thing a little deeper. I want some more command. I want to make it simpler. I want to get the bottom line. I want a conceptual understanding. I want to be able to find the bottom line. I want to get it. I want to know it. I want to grok it. I want to understand. I want to explore this much more deeply. And as I do, I release the fear, and the understanding comes clear.
Imagine yourself reading a newspaper or a book, and you turn the pages and you read for 5 or 10 minutes, and then you put the book down or the newspaper. You still hold on to it, you just lower your arms and turn your gaze away from the printed page as maybe your husband or your wife walks through the room, or a friend. Someone walks through the room, and they see you holding this book or this newspaper, but it's lowered, and you're staring off into space. And I'd like you to imagine hearing them say to you, "What are you doing?" And you say, "I'm just thinking." "Really? What are you thinking about?" "What I just read." "You're thinking about what you just read? Well, didn't you think about it while you read it?" And you hear yourself say, "Well, yeah. I guess I wanted a deeper understanding." Do you do that? As a student, do you stop every 10 or 20 minutes, put your work down, close your eyes, and with a single slow, deep breath, come to a paradise place where you just reflect or ponder, where you contemplate and review in a very casual and effortless way the information that you just absorbed, to take it a little deeper, to get the bigger picture, to understand better the ramifications and implications and consequences of what you've been reading? Or if you're not a student, do you do this at work? You say, "Well, it's too much pressure in my office to be staring out the window." Well, okay, maybe while you're in the middle of a report, you can soften your gaze as you continue to stare at the report and do the same thing. Reflect on what you've read for the last 5 or 10 minutes before going further, and take your understanding to a deeper level. It's not a difficult thing to do. It's an easy thing to do. But it's a really smart thing to do. And let's say you anticipate having a discussion later that day with the boss, or you're the leader of a committee, or that night you and your wife have arranged to have a serious conversation about this problem or that issue. Have you ever considered rehearsing that in advance so that you bring a deeper understanding to the meeting? Just put down your work for a minute. Close your eyes. Or if you can't do that because you're in public, soften your gaze and just reflect. Don't parse it. Don't slice it and dice it. Don't be logical. Don't try to figure it out or deduce any further. No, instead, just relax and see what bubbles up. Wait for the realization to illumine the inside of your head, and often you'll feel it in your heart as well. The funny thing about deep understanding is it often arrives with a sense of confirmation, a feeling in your body of, aha, that's it. There's no question about it. Not only did I realize more information and new information, but it just snapped into a bigger picture, and it's so obvious. You know what I'm talking about. It's happened to you before. We're talking about dedicating yourself to that, committing yourself to moments of deep understanding in your life.
So it's wanting the eureka, it's wanting the aha, it's looking for the experience to know something even deeper, something even better, something that will really, really show an understanding that can be helpful to you, some knowledge that you can put to use, something you can explore and know more. What do you want to know? And the place you want to go is not out there, but rather in here. A deeper understanding is, what does it mean to me? Not more facts, but how does it make me feel? What about it is most powerful? What about it is most real? What about this information can I use to change my life? What about this information makes me calm and removes my strife? What about this data, this stuff out there, can I use to help my friends? What about this information can I use to make amends? Ask yourself, why? Why do I want to know? And find the answer along as you go. And what you'll discover as you look within is an amazing sense of curiosity. It will just begin to bubble up, to grow. The more you know, the more you'll want to know. The more you understand, the more it will become clear that this is the way to remove the fear. This is the way to make things simple and easy and elegant, too. This is the place I want to go. This feels right for me, and I know it'll feel right for you.
Consider that of the 6 W's every journalist uses, you've got the who, what, when, and where down. In most cases, the who is you. The what, better understanding. The when is right now. The where is here. Don't forget the other 2. They're most likely overlooked. The how and the why. That's what provides the deeper understanding. Go where few have dared to go before, and ask yourself again and again and again, how is this happening and why? Whether it's directly about you, the way you impact the world around you, or the impact that the world has on you, it'll arrive in a big picture, full of light, and an instantaneous understanding. Very different from figuring it out bit by bit by bit. Okay? Logic and deduction is a lot like balancing your checkbook, and then you get to the bottom and go, oh, here's my balance. This is what's left. What about going in the other direction? This is what I understand. What else is available? Go for the bigger picture. There's so much more. There was a time in the late 19th century where the U.S. Patent Office was almost closed because the consensus was everything had already been invented. That was before Edison, Ford, and the Wright brothers. Imagine. You think everything's been invented because we have these cool computers and smartphones, and have you seen that new Apple tablet? It just keeps getting cooler and cooler. But we haven't begun to scratch the surface of what's available and what's possible, provided a significant number of women and men, people like you, ask how and especially why, involving yourself in the quest for deep understanding.
So it's up to you as to where to focus in. And with that knowledge, you can begin. This is the subject, this is the area, this is what I want to explore, this is where I want deeper understanding, this is where I want to know more. And with that knowledge, you can begin. So right now, make the choice. Listen right now to that picture that comes to mind, or else that inner voice, or something that tells you, this is what I want to explore, this is where I want to grow, this is where I want to know more, this is where I want to have it simpler so I can understand the how and the why. This is where I want to go. And with that, take a deep breath and open your eyes and come back to Wide Awake.
Want to thank you for being here and invite you to make it a habit. Join us every week. Please continue to use that send one to a friend gadget at focusedpassion.com. Even if you're listening with your browser or your iTunes software to a podcast, every once in a while, check into the website, focusedpassion.com, and use the built-in player, all your programs are there, to forward as many programs as you'd like, as often as you'd like, to your friends, especially those people who you know could benefit from this program or that program. When you listen to one of these episodes and somebody comes to mind, follow that prompting. Send them this program. We know you're doing that, and I want to thank you for that. We just got the web statistics from the last month in, and we're up. So more and more people are doing this, and we love it. You're only paying 99 cents, but it doesn't cost a nickel to send all of these programs that you're collecting one at a time to people that you care about. So do that. It's good for everybody. It's a win-win, win-win, win-win situation. And
remember, too, if you're a new subscriber, there's probably 100-odd programs that you haven't listened to, and maybe one of them is exactly what you need to hear right now to solve your problems or heal your heart.
As always, be gentle, love life, and take care of each other. For Steve Snyder, this is Michael Benner. Aloha from Maui.